For
This
sure.
conference will now be recorded.
And I'm going to stay away from that record button so I don't do it again accidentally. Uh, so Peter also says poor password management.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. So these are all, yeah, you all are hearing really great and have given really great examples of when someone asks for help around those things, they might be good candidates for wanting to learn Northstar. Some other things, as you know, you're looking at the using technology in daily life. If they're looking for a job, they might need help with those actual career search skills, and this includes how to look for a job online, how to apply for a job in a online form, how to write a resume using Word, So it kind of covers a lot of different digital skills. More and more libraries I hear about are getting into the business of helping out with telehealth. So sometimes people want to have a telehealth appointment, but they don't have a device, they don't have internet, they don't have the skills. Whether your libraries might be providing telehealth booths to help people with that, or booths for people they can not rent out, but check out if they have a job interview, if they need to talk to a lawyer, anywhere they would need access and a device and a private space. But you might even hear people, as you're talking to them, talking about, oh, I need to make an appointment with my doctor or something. So again, telehealth can be one area. Or kids. So if people have kids, they often want to, and you sense that they don't have maybe strong digital literacy skills, they often can benefit from learning digital literacy to help them talk to their kids' teachers. A lot of times there's parent portals that they need to log into, and that's how they get their information, or through email. Or if kids are doing distance learning, I know also a lot of parents who homeschool want to learn digital literacy for themselves and to have their kids learn digital literacy. So those are some other people you might come across who might be interested in learning digital literacy. I was talking to a digital navigator who would just go around the library, and anyone who was on a computer, that they would ask them, hey, would you like to learn more about the computer? And I guess about 70% of the time people said yes. So that's another way of meeting people where they're at. But among these using technology in daily life, you know what social media is. Information literacy, you probably know, but it's that idea of how to search to find not just the mechanics of searching, but how to use search terms to find relevant information, how to determine if a source is reliable, kind of that critical thinking piece in searching. And career search skills and accessing telehealth appointments are pretty self-explanatory. Your digital footprint is the idea that whatever you do online, you are leaving traces behind for other people to read or see, and you want to make sure you know that, and that what you're leaving behind is really what you want to be others to have access to. And then supporting K-12 distance learning was created for the pandemic. However, we find that many adults themselves are, let's say they're attending community college or kind of a higher level training program, they may be using distance learning platforms. So this can help make sure that they're ready to participate in those educational pursuits. So when you give an assessment, you can decide on a case-by-case basis if you proctor it or not. And Elizabeth, you said that people were you were starting to proctor at your library. When do you all decide to proctor an assessment at your library?
Sure. So there's three of us who were trained to be proctors, and each Monday we have 3 hours set aside.
Mm-hmm.
So each of us proctor an hour. And then it's basically we just reserve our computer lab, and patrons can drop by during that time and they can practice. But then there's a
Mm-hmm.
proctor in there in case they need someone to actually proctor.
Great. And have people mostly wanted to proctor just to see if they can get the certificate, or are they wanting to do it for like job related reasons or?
It seems like most of the patrons who have requested it's mostly for job applications, for
Mhm,
the certificates themselves. And then
mhm.
a lot of older patrons have just been taking advantage of the practice.
Well, that's fun. Okay. Um, I will say too that usually you'll see a wide range of, like oftentimes as a society, we're a little bit ageist, I guess, in saying that we think that older people don't have computer skills, and that's often true. But don't forget that oftentimes younger people don't either. So I'm hearing from a lot of community colleges and even four-year colleges that students going into college have maybe worked with like Google products during their high school years and don't know how to do file management or work with the Microsoft products. So a lot of those institutions are using Northstar to help beef their students up on that. Um, so it is interesting that a wide range of ages can benefit from using Northstar. And I will tell you all too that I have yet to encounter, so you can prove me wrong on this, but I have yet to encounter anyone who has passed all 15 assessments with 100% on the first try. And that would include IT professionals, which just goes to show that, digital literacy is lifelong learning, and we can all benefit from taking the assessments and seeing what we might have to learn, since most of us, taught ourselves digital literacy. So we might have gaps, or we might not have the most efficient way of doing it. So this can help people learn those skills, or any of your patrons that you're talking to. So when someone takes an assessment, after they take the assessment, they will get this results page. And I think I want to actually show you what the assessments look like for a little bit so you can see. Have any of you taken the assessments? Or an assessment, I should say.
We're getting a no and a yes. So
Okay.
there's some of both here.
All right. So, and now are you seeing the Northstar screen and not my PowerPoint?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks. So this is our homepage, and you can all take an assessment for free on this. Your results won't be recorded, but you can take a screenshot of your results. And so the page is digitalliteracyassessment.org. And if you scroll down to take an assessment, come down here, and here are all the assessments. So I'll show you what I mean by the fact that they require you to do something. So I'm going to click, let's go to basic computer skills. And first you'll hear some cello music. That's just testing your audio. Then there's an orientation video that we'll skip over, and I'll just show you like the first question on this assessment. All right, so you can see this assessment has 38 questions. Click on the desktop computer. Oops, I'm not sharing my sound. So I don't know if you heard the woman say it, but there is someone reading it where it says click on the desktop computer. So we do have, for all the assessments, we have audio as well as words on the screen, and you can also close caption it if the audio, in some of the more advanced assessments, there's more audio than printed words, so you can also close caption it, and you can turn off the audio. So you can see that then people actually have to perform some digital skills by clicking on the desktop computer. People can always put I don't know, which is a great answer if they don't know, because we don't want them to just randomly guess. So this is kind of what the assessment looks like. And once you're done with it, then you will get the results page. So let me go back to that. So the results page gives you your score, and Northstar says you have to have 85% or higher to pass. And then over here on the left-hand side is telling you which of the standards you passed. And on the right-hand side of the gray is showing you which of the standards you have not passed. So if this person then wants to go right to practicing those standards they missed, you can see that they missed standard 5, and it tells you what it's about here. they can go over to the barbell on the right where it says practice, click on that, and they would go directly to that part of the self-directed online learning module that talked about that standard. So, this person passed this assessment. They don't have to do the entire module. It's really just intended for them to practice what they still need to learn. So it's very individualized to each person's learning needs. So I said you have to have 85% or higher to pass. If, and Elizabeth mentioned this, if it's an unproctored assessment and they pass, they can get a digital badge, which is like a micro-credential, and it would say that it was unproctored. But if it's proctored and they pass, they'd get a different digital badge that said proctored, and then they could also get a certificate that you print out and give to them, or if they have the capacity, you could email to them as a PDF if they know how to use email and can open a PDF. So we initially made these certificates so that for people to show employers or potential employers what they knew. And I hear, around the country, a lot of people get jobs because they have these certificates. They can put them on their resume or on LinkedIn or talk about them in the interview. And especially for people who have been out of the workforce for a while, like because of incarceration or because they've been helping with family, or people who this is their first job. So, they're younger people, or maybe it's their first job in this country, or people who are kind of switching over from more of a physical labor job to a desk labor job. The certificates can be really helpful to have this objective way of showing what skills they have. But what we found to be even more important, and we didn't really anticipate at the beginning, was how much confidence getting the certificates gives people. And, Elizabeth was talking about how sometimes people want the certificates to show potential employers, and sometimes just having that certificate helps them talk about themselves in the interview. So I was working with a woman who, she was working on she was working on PowerPoint, and she was kind of having a hard time passing it. And at the same time, she was interviewing for jobs, and she had a lot of first interviews, but never got a second interview. And she was getting kind of down. And she came into the computer lab one day and she passed the PowerPoint assessment and was super excited by that. And then she had an interview that afternoon. And she went to the interview and apparently did a great job about, selling herself, basically. And she ended up getting a second interview and got the job. So whether that was related to, getting the certificate, I can't guarantee that. But definitely it helps people feel like that they have this objective slip of paper that says they know what they're doing. And adults can be very hard on themselves. So again, once people get this, I have had people start crying. People will start giving high fives. Some people will buy frames and frame them and put them up in their apartment. So it's very, very meaningful to people. And people with lower digital literacy skills often are very afraid of the computer. They're afraid they're going to break it. They're afraid they're going to do something wrong, that they're going to mess everything up. So again, seeing, proving to themselves they have these skills can be really, really confidence building. And Elizabeth, I don't know if you've seen anyone who was like super excited to pass or not.
Yeah, I feel like once the patrons got started, they got kind of competitive and excited about it. And then if they didn't pass something, they got really excited when they did.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. I've heard that it's kind of, Northstar is kind of gamified in a way because you can see your score and you can see how you improve it. And, then you can also collect the certificates. So I guess kids really like it too. So at libraries that have it just available to all patrons, a lot of times kids are the ones who want to go through the Northstar assessments and pass them. So here's a picture of one of the students that we serve, and you can see he's holding several of the certificates in his hand there. You can print out just one that lists everything someone has passed, but most of the time your patrons want a separate one for everything they passed because it's kind of that like point of pride. So this man, he ended up passing all the Northstar assessments, and he was kind of typical in some of the people we see, in that he had worked as an auto mechanic for his whole career and got to a point where he just physically couldn't do the job anymore. And he decided he wanted to stay in the field and work at an auto supply store, but really didn't have the digital skills to do the job. So he came to our school. He ended up passing all of the Northstar assessments and getting the job that he wanted with Napa Auto Parts, I think it was. So it was really, he was really excited. It was really fun for us to, be part of that journey with him as he upped his digital skills. So a lot of times, Elizabeth was saying that they have a computer lab and they have certain set hours for proctoring, which I think a lot of libraries do it that way. I've also heard of libraries having, you can schedule appointments to have something proctored. So someone will schedule an appointment for Wednesday at 10, and then they'd come in. And then, of course, if you're giving classes, you can do the proctoring during, at the end of the class time. Or you might just have your digital navigators in the library who are available to do proctoring whenever they're there. So organizations, usually you will give the assessment first not proctored, just to see what someone knows and what they need to learn. And then they'll provide that relevant instruction. And then they'll give the same assessment proctored afterward in hopes that someone can, earn the certificate. You can also use Northstar to prepare your staff, any staff that you have who will be teaching Northstar, and yourself, and upskill your library staff as well. Proctoring was at first in person before the pandemic, but then when the pandemic hit and everyone closed, we've made it really easy to do remote proctoring as well. So you can do either one.
Teresa, going back to your slide with the gentleman with all the certificates and his story, Rhonda says she gets lots of patrons who are going through that as well. Basic data entry is a challenge when folks are used to physical labor. So this is a common story.
Yes, and I'm hearing from a lot of employers now who are buying Northstar because their employees don't have the digital skills, and so they need to skill their employee work base to be able to use. So much of work now is digital, and even, for example, like food processing companies, even though it's kind of on the line, people are working on the line, they still have to get all their HR documents through a portal, and they still have to know how to log on and use the internet to do that. So more and more jobs are requiring some form of digital knowledge. All right, any other questions about the assessments themselves?
Okay, I got a nope, all sounds good, and I don't have any other comments.
Okay, great, thanks. So let's now talk about the instructor-led curricula. Northstar's intention is that we would have a curriculum unit for every topic that we have an assessment for. And so far, we have 14 of the 15 completed. We just released the telehealth assessment a couple months ago, and so now the team is working on the curriculum for that. And then this would be more, again, like either a traditional class or a one-on-one tutoring you could use this instructor-led curricula for. So like everything in Northstar, it's aligned with those standards. And we've made it really easy to use. So you don't have to have a teaching degree in order to use the curriculum. It's intended for anyone who really wants to help your patrons learn digital literacy. So even if you have a volunteer force who do tutoring, this would be perfect for them to use. It's also very learner-centered. So it was created for adults with, hopefully topics that they find interesting. And there's a lot of interaction and a lot of repetition, because at Northstar, we feel like it's pretty hard to learn digital literacy through lecture. You really need to get in there and practice it. And I will say that when I first taught this, I thought there's so much repetition, people are going to get bored. But I found that they actually really loved it because it helped them feel very confident in their abilities and competent in what they were trying to do. In fact, one learner said to me once, what did she say? She said, "We don't learn very much in any one lesson, but what we learn sticks like cement." And like, she felt really good about that. It's also nice because the lessons are very independent of one another. So you might find that you just want to teach about phishing scams. Let's say you want to just have a class on phishing scams. You could easily pull that out from the email unit and just teach that. Or if you're working with someone who knows maybe half the things about PowerPoint but not the other half, you could just start where they need to learn the skills. So the curriculum has about 8 lesson plans per unit topic on average. And if you did everything start to finish, each lesson plan will take about 2 hours, and everything start to finish would be, like 15, 16 hours. But again, you might not have time to have a full-on class. Maybe you do. But you can pick and choose what the person, based on their assessment, what the person may need to learn or the group of people may need to learn. We also have a unit project that tends to be more academically focused, which is often used by educational institutions. But at the library, you can use it for those people who want a little bit more. So what it does is it takes the skills that are learned in that unit, and then it has a reading or two that are pretty short, like a couple paragraphs, on something around digital literacy. And then you take what people have read and the skills they've learned, and they create a project. So this is really great for if people, like we often get people who say, well, what's next? I want to learn some more. And so this is a great kind of way to end a unit. As I mentioned, you can use the lessons for one-on-one tutoring, and you can also use them for remote teaching as well. And it's very easy. I do it all the time teaching instructors, but over Zoom. And it's actually really fun to teach it that way.
And Teresa, I'm just going to pop in here back to that slide for just a second, if that's okay. Depending on how you have your things set up at your library, you may be doing formal classes, but you probably will have many more interactions with the one-on-one instruction. And I have heard from folks that this is just a great guide to have a consistent method for going through teaching things. So you use the same names for doing things over and over again so that it doesn't confuse people. This work is already done for you. So if you walk away from here with nothing else, take a look at those curriculum pieces and see how they speak to you in your library. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Because if you're always trying to think of, what to say or how to introduce this topic, or, that's a lot of your time that's being spent. And so if you're using the curriculum, whoever this person talks to in the library that's providing, this instruction will be using the same terminology, we'll be kind of going through the same process. And so it will be familiar, which is often people who are feeling uncomfortable about something will often not do it. And the more familiar it seems, the better chance they have of continuing on in that instruction. So every lesson has all of these components. And again, you can decide what makes sense for you to use if you're working one-on-one or in a class. So the lessons start with a warm-up, which is basically looking at, adults come with a lot of wisdom. So we want to tap into that. We want to get them talking. We want to see where they're at. And we want to then be able to take what they already know and marry it and better cement it to the information they're going to learn. So we start with that warm-up. And then we tell them what we're going to talk about, what they're going to learn today, because adults really want to know what they're going to learn and how it's relevant to them. So we share those objectives with them. And then the instructor will model this skill and explain what they're doing. So first of all, the patron will watch you doing the skill, and then you'll do it together. So this is, something if you have more than one person, but you and the class will do it together. So you as an instructor can make sure everyone's tracking. But you could do that one-on-one too, and just kind of work on it together. Make sure, have them lead that, but you're there to help them along. Pair Explorer would be, again, if you have a larger group and you want people who are a little bit more advanced to work with people who are not quite as advanced. But in the end, there's always an assignment or a task that the person works on by themselves. And then the two of you will talk about it and see, make sure they don't have any more questions, and then go over those objectives to make sure that you've met them all. And then included in all that is very specific digital literacy vocabulary work where people are actively learning these terms. So this is what a lesson plan looks like that Christine was alluding to. So the first page of any lesson plan looks like this. And it tells you in the upper left-hand corner what standards are in this lesson. And we made it really easy. So for every topic, you can see all the standards, and then you can see which lesson each standard is in. So again, if there are specific things you want to teach to this person, you can easily find which lesson to go to. In the upper right-hand corner, the vocabulary shows you what words they're gonna specifically learn in this lesson. And in the middle, this kind of tells you what the objectives are, more written for you as an instructor, and any teaching tips that you're going to need to know. So for example, in this case, just knowing that sometimes browsers call something a private window, and some call it an incognito window. So just so depending on what browser you're working with, the term. And then the bottom is just showing you what, if you're in person, what you're going to have to make copies of for each person, or if you click on these links, you can just show it on your screen. So making it really easy for you to find those resources. So if we kind of take a look at some of the components of the lesson, here's what I was talking about with that warm-up. So you can see this lesson is on, internet safety, and it starts with getting people to talk about, what kinds of things you have to keep safe and how can you keep it safe, to see what they already know and to get them just thinking about this topic in general. And this, if you're working one-on-one with someone, this can be a very quick, kind of easy-going conversation. And then you have the we will learn. So these are the objectives. And I have found that I thought when I first taught this, I would just kind of tell people these. And I found that people love these. They really want to, like if they have a notebook, they always want to write them down. They want to talk about any words they don't understand or any concepts they don't understand. And they also really like referring back to their notebooks. So as you're working with people, you might encourage them to have some kind of writing utensil and paper so that they can refer back to them, because I found that people seem to really enjoy that with the digital literacy. And then if you have handouts that you're printing out, you can give that to them too. But here's what Christine was talking about. So in Northstar, it tells you as an instructor or tutor what you're going to say to people. So this helps maintain consistency, across your library. Also, many of us, we know how to do things in digital literacy, but we may not know the proper terminology. So this just ensures that we're using the proper terms consistently. And then the other thing is, for most of you, it's probably been a really long time since you did not know how to turn on a computer or use a mouse or use the internet. I mean, you may not even really remember a time before then. So because of that, those of us who are digitally literate, we often forget what it's like to be in that newly learning space. And we might use terms that don't make sense to someone who doesn't have those skills yet, or describe it in a way that doesn't make sense. So if I said, let's say I was talking to someone who did not know how to search on the internet, and I said, click on the link, it doesn't mean anything to them. Even though I do it every day, they've never heard those terms. So we want to talk to people about digital literacy in a way that hopefully they can most easily absorb it and not get turned off or feel intimidated by it. So the wording in Northstar can help you do that. We also here's like an example of a handout. And mostly what I want to point out is if you look at the first names in the handout, they're from a variety of cultures. And Northstar and its videos and its pictures and its names, we use people from a variety of cultures to help hopefully patrons feel like they identify with the people that are in Northstar. Are there any questions about the instructor-led curriculum or how you would use it?
I'm not seeing any questions so
Okay.
far.
All right. So then let's look at the self-directed online learning. And the intention again here is that we would have a self-directed online learning module for every assessment we have. And we started, I don't know, creating these right before the pandemic. And I think the first one came out in March 2020. So we have about half done. We have 7 done. This month, at the end of this month, PowerPoint will be done and social media will be done. And then the team will start working on Google Docs. And then you can see that Basic Computer is now also available in Spanish. And so I want to show you what this looks like. It's the easiest way to for you to understand. And I am not sure that you're going to be able to hear my mic very well. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and see if there's something I can do to make that more apparent. Are you all still there?
We're all still here.
Okay. For some reason, I'm not seeing you, so I just always have to check. Oh, here I see you. Okay. Let me see if I can change my sound.
We could hear the
You could?
the
Assessment?
audio from the other part. It was very very faint,
Yeah.
in relation to your voice, but it was there.
Okay. I'll turn up maybe my audio so that might help. All right. So let's go back to our screen sharing. And let's see. I'm going to just scooch down here. All right, so I'm going to play this for you. And what you hopefully will hear is a woman's voice who will be reading the instructions just like we saw in the assessment. So let's go there. All right, so here we go.
If you look closely at the outside of a computer, you will see buttons and many small holes. These holes are usually called ports. Each port has a specific shape for different uses and different types of plugs.
So if you could hear her, she was very quiet on my end too, but the voice is reading the words that are on the screen, and she reads very slowly and clearly. You can replay the audio as many times as you want. You can make it faster. You can make it slower. You can turn it off. And like I mentioned, we do have closed captioning, especially if there are videos embedded in here. Someone would want the closed captioning if they had a hard time hearing. So, hopefully it's helpful to a wide variety of learners and a lot of different learning needs. So the way the self-directed online learning is set up is you'll have this instructional piece, but as I mentioned, Northstar really believes that you need to practice the skills in order to learn them. So I want to show you an example of a practice piece. So I'm going to click on this next button.
Here is a flash drive that you can plug into a computer. Click on the port that matches it.
So then I'm going to, if I click here, I'm told, yeah, that's a USB port. If I click on the headphone jack, then I'm told, no, that this is a headphone jack. Look for something that matches the flash drive shape. So Northstar Online Learning is set up where you'll have this instructional piece, practice piece, instructional piece, practice piece for several of the standards. And then there'll be a little quiz. And the quiz will say you're ready to go on in the module or go back and review what you just learned. And there'll be about 3 or 4 of a section in a module, 3 or 4 sections in a module. And at the end of the last section, it will have that little quiz and say, you're ready to go on to the assessment or go back and review X, Y, and Z. So again, very tailored to each individual and what their learning needs are. And now you can also use the self-directed online learning if you're tutoring a patron too. Oftentimes, tutors will go through this together and you'll kind of be there to help answer questions, to help guide them in how to use it or maybe get them started on using it. And you can also use this for instruction alone with you helping them or tie it into using the curriculum as well. So the self-directed online learning, if you did an entire module from the beginning to the end, it takes about 90 minutes. But sometimes patrons don't have 90 minutes to work on it all at once. So they can stop and start and the system will save their progress. So a lot of times patrons will work on it like during work breaks, so maybe like 10 minutes a day, and it will save their progress. So the patrons or the learners are able to see what what they've done and the scores they have and everything like that in their learner dashboard. So what the learner dashboard looks like is, got to get there, but is this. So you can see that, each learner, each patron has access to all the assessments that Northstar has here. And for those assessments that have the self-directed online learning, the word lessons shows up next to take an assessment. So you can see for basic computer skills, internet basics, and email, they all have the word lesson here, so they all have the self-directed online learning. If we go down to Mac OS, it says details instead of lessons. And then in bold, you can see it says lessons are not yet developed. If I click on the details, it will tell me there are no practice lessons available for this topic. So we've tried to make it as clear as we can to your learners what they have, which of the self-directed online learning modules they have access to. So as we're looking at this page here, the outer ring, let's look at internet basics in purple. The outer ring is showing us how well I did as a learner on this topic. And so you can see if I had a full circle, I would have gotten 100%. So of these 3, of basic computer skills, internet basics, and email, which one did I do the best on?
You've got a couple folks who are saying email.
Yes, right. Okay. And then if we look at the inner ring, this like light blue ring here, this is how much of the self-directed online learning I've completed. So of these 3 again, which have I completed the least on?
You've got Rhonda saying internet basics, Deanna saying basic computer skills. They're kind of close.
So I've actually completed the least on internet basics. So if you look, I'll make it bigger. If you look, this is kind of a semicircle, and the basic computer skills is a little bit more. And if you look at the percentages, you see it's 55 to 50, but very close, as you say. It's my trick question of the day. So now if someone were to click on take an assessment, Then that assessment would be tied directly to your library. So each of your libraries has a site-specific URL, and that's where you want people taking the assessments, so that all that information goes into the reports that you have access to. And from here, it would do that. If someone clicked on lessons and they went to the, I'm on the practice tab, but if they went to the standards tab, they can see which of the standards they missed if they took that, pre-assessment. And then over here on the right, they could click on these where it says practice complete to practice just that standard. So again, this person only missed 4, so they might want to just focus on those areas that they've missed. If you click on the practice tab, these bullet points really are the standards. And so let's say you're working with someone, you might say, well, I'd like you to work on, identify address bar and demonstrate understanding of its functionality while you're in my computer lab. And then if you have any questions, let me know, and then we'll decide what you work on next. Or if you're teaching a class and you want people to, you don't want to teach it in the class, but you want them to review top level domains, you can have them all do that at the first 5 minutes of the class or for homework or something. A learner can always come back here and look at anything again as many times as they want, as long as you have a Northstar subscription. So if someone passed this assessment and then, 4 months later, they were looking for a job and they had to fill out an online form and they kind of forgot how to do that, they could come here and review, fill out an online form, and be more equipped to apply for that job. So then you as tutors and teachers also have access to see what each person is doing and how they're doing. And so what it looks like from your perspective is this. So here you can see my learner name, which happens to be my name. And here under modules, these are the assessments. If you hover over it, it will tell you what each of these icons stands for. And the best score, this is showing you what the top score this person has received. So maybe they were at a computer lab and they took an assessment and it wasn't proctored, and but they passed. You could, and then you come in as the next proctor. You could see that and ask them if they want to take it again, proctored, so they could get the certificate, for example. You can see how many times they've tried to take it. And then if you scroll down, it's color coded. So if they pass, it's in green, and if they have not, it's in yellow. The practice lessons lets you know how much of the practice lessons they've completed. And then this tells you if they've earned a badge or a certificate. And then in Northstar, if you ever see this I with the circle, it means there's more information behind it. So if you click on that, you can see which of the standards they've missed, and then if they've done the practice for those over here on the right or not. And then if you scroll down to the very bottom, you can see when they took it, if they take an assessment, when they took it, who proctored it. And again, if you click on the I, this will tell you, if you scroll down to the very bottom, what questions they're missing. So if you're working with this person and they're having a really hard time passing this assessment, and you're not really sure why, you can come here and take a look at the questions and see if there's any clues in those questions. So now I would not expect you're going to remember what question 21 of Internet Basics is. So if you click on the number, the actual question comes up. And it might be that someone is confused about some of the wording in the question, like they just don't understand maybe the word dangerous, for example. Or maybe they're being asked to provide 3 answers and they're only providing 1. Or they're having a hard time, they're getting confused about something. So I wouldn't say to teach to the test, but this just gives you some idea if someone's really struggling, why they might be struggling. The other nice thing about Northstar is it will tell you how much time someone is spending on the self-directed online learning, even if they're not with you. So it will break it out into time they spend with you using it versus away from you. So then you can kind of see trends, like are people using it in the library, or are they using it, at at another place, like at home or at work? Do we want to promote that, or do we want to get people started in the library and then have them work on it at home? It will give you that kind of data. Are there any thoughts or questions about the self-directed online learning? If you are writing, while you're writing. One thing I do want to remind you is that with Northstar, because you're hoping to work with people who have very low digital literacy skills, they aren't going to always be able to just do the online learning initially on their own. So it might take some orientation from you about how to use it and how to get on, and a little bit of help. And then typically after someone's started using it, they can do it mostly on their own with maybe occasional questions. Were there any questions? Yeah.
So far, so good, and no other comments. So I think we are ready to roll on to the next thing.
All right. All right. So when you, in order to use the self-directed online learning, you need to add your patrons to the learner management system. And you can either do that by you signing them up or someone on staff signing them up, or many libraries allow for self-sign-up. And in either of those cases, all you need are the first name, the last name, and an email address. Now, of course, many of your people don't have an email address because they don't know how to use email. But you can create one for them. I understand that's something libraries do frequently. And the other thing to remember is if you have self-sign-up, again, some people will be able to do that, but some won't have the digital skills to even find your website and or sign up. So you can offer self-sign-up, but you also want to ideally provide that with your have your staff provide that as well. You can also create learner accounts in bulk. So if you are offering a class, or let's say you have a computer lab and you have a bunch of people you want to create learner accounts for that day, you can do it in bulk. We have like a spreadsheet with one column first name, one column last name, final column email address. You just enter all that information in and then bulk upload it, and it will create all those learner accounts at once. We also have a feature called tagging, which you might find useful. The reports in Northstar, when you run them, the default report is for all the learners you have in your system. But maybe you want to break out learners by demographic or by zip code or by whoever's working with them. You can do that through tagging. And Northstar doesn't make the tags for you. You at the library decide what tags the library is going to use. People can have multiple tags. And the only thing we don't let you tag on are personally identifiable information. So like social security number, driver's license number, birthday, those kinds of things. But whatever else makes sense for you to run a sub-report on, you can create a tag for. So some of the reports that you have access to, kind of the higher level reports, look like this. So you can see this one will show you how many people are, how many learners are at your library, how many hours they're spending on the self-directed online learning, how many assessments you've given, how many have been passed, and what your pass rate is. The summary report here, this circle graph, is showing you how many assessments of each type you've given at your library. So in this case, if you hover over the pieces of the pie, it tells you how many. So in this case, over 2,000 of basic computer skills. So this can be helpful because it can prove, that what you're doing to those who are funding you. It can also help if you have people at the library who get to choose what assessments they take. It can inform you as to what people are really interested in. So you can see that, for example, here, not that many people are taking PowerPoint, but quite a few are taking Internet Basics. So maybe you'd say, well, let's have an Internet Basics class because there are so many people who are interested in it. And maybe PowerPoint, that's something we'd have, a tutor or someone would work on the self-directed online learning by themselves on that. The bar graph under here shows you what percentage of assessments have been passed of each type. So here you can see email a lot of people are passing it, 68%, whereas PowerPoint, not that many, maybe 31%. So you might say, well, email seems to be easier for this group of people to master. So if we encounter someone who doesn't pass the email assessment, maybe we have them start with the self-directed online learning because it seems kind of easy for people to pick up. Whereas if they don't pass PowerPoint, you might say, this seems like more difficult for our patrons to learn, so we should probably have them work with a tutor on this or have a class on this. So it can kind of help you direct your instructional time and energy. If you look at the detailed reports and you go on view report, it gives you a lot of that same information. But here it tells you, and Elizabeth, you might find this handy, how long on average it's taking your patrons to take this particular assessment. So that can help with your time management if you are proctoring. If you have 5 minutes left of the hour, you probably won't want to start proctoring at this assessment. And I'd say 15 to 20 minutes is, from what I've seen, is a pretty good average for those who are lower digital literacy. I would recommend you all take at least one assessment to see what it's like. And probably for you, it will take 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what assessment you choose. So if you scroll down then, this is showing you which questions your group in aggregate are having difficulties with. So you can see like question 13, a lot of people are missing. And if I keep scrolling down here where there's the brown triangle, I can see question 13 is something about hyperlinks. So if I click on that, I see the actual question, and I see that people are getting confused about which mouse pointer does what. So I might have like a mini class on that, or I might make sure I talk about it when I'm helping people learn how to use the internet, because it's something that seems to be confusing for a lot of the people at this organization. So for all of you, you should all have, well, all your sites have a Northstar administrator, or probably 2 or 3. And if you don't know who that person is, Christine can help you. And that person, what makes them unique, those administrators, is they can add or delete people into the admin portal. So if you don't have access to the admin portal, the Northstar admin portal yet, that administrator is the person who will give you access. Do all of you have access to the Northstar admin portal, or do you maybe not know? Or
And if you don't, again, you can email me directly or put something privately in chat. Okay, I'm seeing not yet, do not, yes. So folks who are saying not yet or they do not, I can get back with you and see what the plan is at your library.
Great, thanks. So there's really kind of 4 roles in Northstar. There's the Northstar administrators, and then there's a role that we call staff. And that's for any of you that would want to run reports in Northstar, access the curriculum, add learners to Northstar. You would all be considered staff. And your library can add as many staff as they want to. Then the third category are the proctors. And these are people who see everything that staff sees, but they've also gone through like a 15-20 minute video training on how to do proctoring. And then they take a little quiz and they get a unique, what we call a proctor pin, that shows that they can proctor. And again, you can have as many people use that as you want, or be proctors as you'd like. And then the fourth category are your learners, or the patrons that are going to be using Northstar. As Christine knows, your library can have free advertising on Northstar homepage. So if someone's looking for your services, they can put in their zip code, or they can have someone put in their zip code for them on our homepage and see what organizations offer Northstar. So if you are offering certain services like the proctoring, you might want to make sure that your administrator is putting that on our website, and it's really easy to do. And then we also have an online help desk. So if you have any questions on how to use it, we have a lot of training resources in Northstar, so to tell you how to do all these things. But if you can't figure out how to do something, and Christine is also a good point of contact, Or if more likely, or not likely, but if you encounter something that's not working, you can access us there. And we're a group of about, we're a team of about 6 full-time equivalent people. But whoever is the most available and the most expert will get back to you on your issue. So let me show you again how to take those assessments, because that's a great way to start, and you don't have to be in the admin portal to do that. So you want to go to the digitalliteracyassessment.org, and again go to take an assessment, and then just scroll down and oh, this is asking me, this is just unique to me. You'll scroll down and you'll see all the assessments here, and you can take at least one, and you can take as many as you'd like. When you take an assessment through the free version, you'll get that results page, but it won't be saved anywhere. So unless you take a screenshot, you won't have that saved, and you won't be in the reports. So what questions do you have, or comments or thoughts about how you might use this with the people that you're serving? And Elizabeth, if there's something you particularly want to see or talk about, also let me know.
Okay, I've got one that just popped up. This is a great opportunity, well, a comment. This is a great opportunity to zero in on what issues patrons are really having.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's really true. And it's so great because a lot of times people will say, oh, I don't know anything about digital literacy. And they'll take an assessment, and they will, they'll pass some of the standards, and then you'll be like, or they'll say, oh, actually, I guess I do know something. So that's kind of helpful, and you can say, well, this is where we'll start. And I can now see the chat because I'm not sharing, but and I think it's true that people do get confused. They get very scared. They get, they think they're going to mess things up or break something. And so having a path is also kind of helpful, because you have this, here's where we're going to start. This is what we're going to do next. And people are building their skills along the way. And I've seen, as I'm working with people, they'll often initially not ask any questions and be very, like specific to what you're doing. But then as they learn, they're like, okay, well, if I could do that, can I do this? Or I learned how to search and I really want to know about this. And they'll kind of start branching out, and that's what we want, right? In digital literacy, the kind of goal is what we call digital resiliency. And that's being able to take not just what you teach them about a specific website or a specific browser or a specific program, but being able to take what they've learned and then apply that to similar situations. Because, we know that digital literacy is constantly changing, and the digital landscape is constantly changing. And yeah, that's true. People will jump around. So again, this says, okay, let's start with this topic. Let's pass this assessment, then go to the next one. And kind of people then really delving more into a topic and actually learning it as setting a baseline for everybody. Yeah, great observations. Any other thoughts or concerns or thank you, Rhonda. I think too, though, that Northstar has a lot in it, and it can be overwhelming. And you might be like, I don't even know there's so much in here. How do we start? So I do want you to realize that you don't have to do everything all at once. Think about your library, think about your staff situation, think about the flow you have, and you might decide where you're just going to start offering maybe the self-directed online learning at first, and that's where you're going to start. And there's no wrong way to do it. No, nothing is bad. So kind of see what makes sense of what you're most comfortable with and start there rather than waiting to have everything perfect and not starting, which I think often happens. Yeah, that's exciting, Elizabeth, that you're using it with your patrons. And I will say too, for you, so oftentimes people with low digital literacy, they don't find out about it through a website, right? So if you have posters or something, or rack cards or something in the library, that can help with what getting the word out to people. Educating your staff at the library can help, just so they know what Northstar is and that you are providing these services can really help, because they're going to get these questions that you all told me at the beginning too. And if they know who to refer them to, or even like basically say to someone, hey, we have this software that can help you learn digital literacy. Are you interested in talking to someone about that? That's going to help promote it as well. And Christine has put in the FAQs, and you can talk more about that, Christine, and about your kind of what you guys have going on.
Yeah, so again, there are libraries who have gone before you in Ohio, and I will tell you there are just about as many different ways to do it as there are libraries. And some libraries have just a couple staff who are Northstar experts. Some libraries have all the staff who've done the assessments and are able to help people with the basics. It all varies. Some folks have just put it on their website with a little link among their other online resources. Some folks are doing the classes based on the curriculum. It all depends on what works for you and for your patrons. This is meant to save your time and effort so that you can spend your energy where you sing, like where you're most valuable. And that is in those interactions with your patrons. So you're not spending all your time back in a back room coming up with curriculum or trying to figure out where to start. And seriously, if you have a question, chances are somebody's already asked it. But there are so many questions there that I've done what I can to try to organize it. But if you don't find what you need, holler. I mean, seriously, there are besides myself, there are almost 80 other libraries that would be willing to help you out. So we're all learning this together. We're all learning what is best for our own communities, and there's a lot of help out there. You're not doing this alone, and this is just one more way to help you do what you do best.
Mm-hmm. I've also, some of you said you were giving out devices. Libraries loan them out or they give them out sometimes. And I have heard of libraries who will require people, if they want to use a device, they'll require them to go through like those first 3 basic assessments: basic computer, internet basics, and email. And if they don't pass, then they offer them, some kind of instruction. So that's another thing you can think about, just to make sure that people who want to use your devices know how to use your devices. All right. Any other thoughts or questions, or for either Christine or myself? Okay. Well, then I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and nice August. And let either Christine or Northstar know if you have any questions.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. And I think I got most of the presentation, Teresa. Thank you for bearing with me. I think I double clicked when I first tried to record.
And I'll send you that.
The slides. Yeah. So thank you for coming. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. You know where we are.
Goodbye, everybody.